Okay, because of time, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about three main things. One is adding a signal generator to boost some low-end emphasis for our avalanche. Two, we'll be kind of doing an overall kind of balanced mix for the final export, which is the third thing that we'll handle, which is the Quicktime Export. So we can actually get this out with your audio attached to it as a video clip that you can either share digitally or you can burn to DVD or something in that kind of effect. So the first thing I want you to do is, and when I think I actually had even shown you this before, I don't remember if we did it when we were working with the kick drum, but what I'd like for you to do is under the avalanche track that we built on Monday, please go ahead and create, by hitting Command-Shift-N, a new mono aux track. So it has to be in mono and it has to be an aux input, okay? So we need a new mono aux input, just one. And hit create. What I then want you to do is just title that aux input avalanche sub. In your, let's go ahead and break out your notes while we're in the process of doing this so that we can keep track of what is taking place. As soon as we break out into, I'll get a sign-in sheet as soon as we break out into having you guys do this. Okay, so step one, we're going to create an aux input. So in your notes, you can just call this creating a sub boost. This is what we have to do is we have to generate some sub signal where there isn't one. And this is done a ton in audio for post. A lot of times the sub sounds and things like that are great special effects clips. But there's an easy way to drive the sub. So in creating this sub, step one is to create a mono aux input. The reason we're going to need it in mono, or I should say the reason we don't need it in stereo, is because sub-frequencies radiate at 360 degrees. So when you have a 5.1 system or a sub in a standard stereo with a sub system, there's only one sub. Even if there were multiple subs, they're duplicates of the layer. Does that make sense? So like there's not a stereo version of sub. So because there's not a stereo version of sub, we're going to make a mono aux input. The reason we need it to be an aux input is because it's going to be a live feed the whole time. We're going to set it up to do a couple things. So step one was to create the sub. Step two, you could just label it, or I'm sorry, the aux input. You could just label it, whatever the name is that you need. So step two, just say label track accordingly. In this instance, we just did avalanche sub. We're going to hit OK. In step three, activate the plug-in signal generator. So all you're going to do is activate the plug-in signal generator. It's in the other category. You know you have it because it's going to do this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the, in the next step, take the volume level to 0 dB. And you can see there's a little level slider here. It's going to be a little loud, so what we're going to have to do in order to do this, actually, you know what? Instead of taking it to 0, just because it is pretty loud, let's take it to -10 instead of -20. In the next step, let's drop the frequency to in between 60 and 90 hertz. I'm going to do 65 for this particular. I mean, we could do lower, but these speakers don't really handle it very well. Yeah, that'll work for me. All right, and then in our next step, let's turn our fader. We're going to turn our fader down to negative infinity. Okay, so in your next step, turn your fader down to negative infinity. And in the final step, this final step is kind of basic. It requires other steps, but in the final step, you're going to volume automate the sub fader. Okay, so we're just going to volume automate the sub fader, and that's it. But remember, we've already learned how to automate, right? You guys have already learned how to volume automate. So how do we really do that? Kind of recalling. How do we if I want to volume automate the fader, what do I do?
You can use like a pen tool. You can actually go in here and put it up or down.
Okay.
You can also do the automatic one. You set it.
Well, let's go back to the pen tool. What view do I have to be in order to make that work? I have to do something with the track. Do I do that in the mix window or the edit window? With the pen tool?
The mix. Or,
this one's the mix.
You have to put the one in the mix window to right so that you can...
Okay, and I don't need to do it if I'm doing the pen.
Okay.
Just so we're clear. But we're going to do it in the edit window. It's over here. What do I need to do?
Change it to audio or volume.
Yeah, there we go, volume. And we can draw it in. You know, just like you said. What was the other process that you used? That you mentioned?
You can do the right in one thing. That's what it is.
Okay, so if we move the track to auto right,
Yeah.
and then what do we do? Right, when we're doing volume automation, if we use the fader, what do we have to do? You guys know, right? What do we have to do? We put it in right mode, what's next?
Press play and then just
Automate it.
Yeah, automate.
Yeah, so press play and move that fader, right? Pretty simple. We missed one step, though, that's critical to the automation in real time. So that's real-time automation where this is editing automation manually, right? Which I love this, I love that, I love both. Sometimes one's better than the other. There's one thing we have to do to confirm that if I move the fader, it's going to write that information.
Change it to read.
We do that when we're done.
It's the latch one.
That's the next step if we continue writing. It's something else. There's an automation setup window. Remember this? Where was it? Let's see, which one is it? 8? 9. Oh, it's command 4. It's under window, automation. All we have to do is make sure that this thing that says volume is in the red. Okay, and after that we can do it just the way you're set. What I'm going to have you guys do is you guys can make your choice, but I'll just say this. The best way to write this automation is to do it in real time so that we can watch the clip. And that's kind of how some of this was. It's just easier to watch the clip, more fun to watch the clip to kind of see what's going on. So here's what I'm going to do, okay? So all I want to do is, I'm going to switch this back to read. This is where we left off on Monday. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for that section, I'm just going to go ahead and add some sub-frequency underneath it where I want to emphasize some information. So all I'm literally going to do is automating by doing this. Well, although I might, hold on, let me see. I might go lower. Now, sorry, looking at the clip, I actually need to go, I can get away with 50, I think. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'll go with 50, all right, just because I need a little more energy out of that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it down, and I'm just going to drive it as the clip goes. Okay, so I'm going to switch to right, push play. Now, if I had a sub, it would really move, but these guys are kind of just barely holding on to this frequency, so. And then at the end, I'm just going to go to latch because I missed this last spot. Let me just pull this. Sorry, I missed that last. I was kind of still going at the end there. Now, I don't know if you guys have, to be honest, I don't know if, I like to use an additional effect. Let me see if this has it on this track to kind of give us a little more of a believable option. Oh, right here. Actually, what I could do right here is delete it and just right at the end of this clip, just get that push and go out. And I can just return it to read. One additional thing I might be able to do, let me just see what we have. I like to use, I have something called the driver from Native Instruments. I love using it on all sorts of cool stuff like this to kind of give it a little more effect instead of having it just be a straight off low end. Let me just see if we have something here. If we do, it might really give us that little bit of edge. Sorry, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit for a second. Well, I might go with the guitar amp and see if I can get it to be mad. Let's see. No, it might be too hot. Let's see. No, this filter's not going to work. So let me just see if I can get it. Oh, that might work better. Let's see. All right. So what I want you to do real quick, let me explore with this and see what I can find, because I do want to actually have you guys filter this. I'm going to have you go through your steps real quick and build this, and then you can go through it and automate it just for that ice cracking spot. Just get all you can do is emphasize some few points. The big thing is when we filter out, remember we filter out the highs for that one section where it kind of goes under his legs and he's got his eyes bulge out. That's kind of where we want a nice emphasis on the low end, so a little bit of a push right there in that section. And then right after that, I'll try to find you a nice sourced plugin for this that you can kind of give it a little more grit. It feels like it just needs a little more variation to the low end. Kylie, did you catch any of what was going on? I'm sorry, how much of it did you miss? Pretty much all of it. Okay, so you're just, basically what you're going to do is open up your iStage project. Is it up right now? After the avalanche track that you built, like click on the avalanche track, it's on the nameplate. And what you're going to do is you're going to build a mono aux input. So you can just say Command-Shift-N and add a mono aux input. Let me know when you have it. Okay, after this, what you're going to do is you're going to title it Avalanche Sub. After you title it Avalanche Sub, you're going to create, or on the insert, go ahead and activate Signal Generator. It's under Plugin Other. And after you activate that Signal Generator, then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it up to -10. I have mine down just for temporarily. And then you're going to drop it anywhere between 60 and 80 hertz. I just put mine down at 60. So you're going to move the frequency to 60 and the level to -10. What we're going to do is you're going to volume automate it. So once you set that up, take the fader on that track all the way to -infinity. So all the way down. All right. Let me know when you got that far. Good. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to, after that point, you're going to go ahead and put in the automation. So you're going to switch to write, auto write. And then from the beginning of that Avalanche clip, you're going to push play. And you're basically just going to automate it by pushing that sub level up and down. You don't have to let it go the whole time. So you're just going to activate it and shut it off. Or like basically bring it up and bring it down. But when you bring it down all the way. And then activate it by adding more. Does that make sense? And you're going to just do it through that clip, and at the end of that clip, it needs to be off. And that's all you're doing so far. Okay? Actually, that's what I might do. Let's see. Let's try this. Raise your hand if you're done. Done. Okay. All right, we're gonna just take just a few moments. I think I'm gonna change one of the parameters here. Let's see how. Okay. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change a couple things to make this thing fly a little better. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do. Go ahead and on this track, insert after the signal generator, insert an EQ, the EQ7 band. What we're going to do is I'm going to switch this to pink noise so it's a little grittier. It's a little too pure instead of using a sine wave. But in order to do it, I want to put this filter on. So if you look at the filter that I have on here, this is the EQ7 band. You need to set up 2 parameters. One of them is going to be that low-pass filter. You're going to activate it, roll the Q to 24 dB per octave, and put in, for the frequency, 140. Okay? It's just right there in that section. So you're just going to drop that in. So basically, you know, when you open it up, you could easily do, like, let's say I reset this, what was it, 55? We do 55 and 1.5. You're going to activate it, turn it up, put it at 140. Okay, so activate it, turn it up, you can just type this in. Frequency equals 140. Okay? Then in addition to that, after you've done that, in the red section here where it says low filter, switch it to a peak notch, this guy right here. Not the shelf, but the peak notch option. I want you to type in the frequency, 55, hit return, and then in the gain, I want you to put 1.7. Should look like this when you're done. What we're going to do is we're going to switch this from a sine wave. The sine wave does a pure tone on a specific frequency, and we're going to switch it to pink noise. Pink noise is randomly generated noise throughout the entire band. Problem with it is if we don't apply a filter, it won't be sub-frequency emphasis. It will essentially be the whole band. So let me open it up for you so you can hear it. What we're going to do is we're going to switch to pink noise. Let me mute this or bypass this and open this up. This is what pink noise sounds like without this filter. What we're going to do is we're going to put this filter on so it can sound like this. That makes sense? What I want you to do next is go to your signal generator and switch it to pink noise. All right, so on your signal generator, you're going to switch it to pink noise. It's this little icon down on the end. And go ahead and take your level. I had to put my level at negative 6.6 because it's not as strong as it was when it was a sine wave. You might want to adjust or make adjustments with your level. Whatever your loudest point was that you did the automation, you might want to do a little bit of offset so it sounds like it moves the way it's supposed to. But basically, like with this in play, here's the way that this turns out. Now, we're going to end up needing more of it as we go through this sliding ice grid section here. So you may end up wanting to get all the way up to that. You know, I mean, and you could easily just use more of this right here as soon as you get to that break. Yeah, you see how this is working out? Just in that one pink noise section, you can see, you know, obviously and then the ice is going to come back in here. So what I ended up doing is a couple things. I'm sorry. And that was, again, I switched to pink noise and I apply this filter. And then I had to turn this up enough. Actually, mine ended up being 4.2 in order to get it to kind of rattle like that. What it does is, like, when pink noise is pushed loud enough, instead of having a straight, even sound, it kind of, like, what it does, and I don't know if you notice it, but, like, if I activate it again, it vibrates the cone in an inconsistent pattern so that it actually sounds like it's kind of moving, right? Does that make sense? Like it's not like a consistent solid note. It's doing this randomized noise pattern, but it's actually, because of the way that it's flexing the cone, it's actually pushing in an inconsistent manner, which makes it feel a little more realistic. So I ended up having to do, like, when I backed this off to like negative, where was I before? Like here, -7, it doesn't get that variable rip. It's still there, but all of a sudden you hear that like staticky rip going on. So that's kind of what you're going for this in order to get that inconsistent manner so that you can get the rest of that there. So go ahead and change those parameters real quick if you hadn't done it already, and just put your headphones on and get that leveled up appropriately. I'm sorry, I know you were behind. Did you get that? Okay. Oh, just switch that to that. Yeah, just double check that your EQ, you switch the low frequency to peak notch mode instead of shelf mode. Good. High fives? Right? That's pretty rad, right? I mean, it is, like, if you had a real sub, sorry we don't have a sub in this room, but I mean, like, if we had a sub, like, the emphasis on what was going on there would be really, really cool. Now notice, what you could literally do here is I would take the pencil tool in this next step real quick. Just take your pencil tool. Make sure, if you hold it, make sure it's in freehand mode. All right, so click on it, make sure it's in freehand mode. Notice what I did here is I left this down for this one segment. So just give it a little space and then go ahead and zip it up and leave it up for a bit here. You'll see that it really works out for what's going to happen in that next sequence, because obviously right after this, we need a sound effect for that chip popping off at the top, right? And the sound effect of the ice kind of cracking and breaking back down and hitting the, right? But basically, this whole part where he sees the shadow, we want it at full bore by then, so that it's literally getting this, like you see the camera shaking, it's got that rumbly low end going on in the background. How many of you had actually done spotting syncs beyond this point so far? Like already inserted some audio effects for this section? Nobody? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and look at a couple things real quick then. What I think we should do in order to kind of get this rounded out is it looks like the majority of this is fine. We may actually just be able to use, let's see what other ice crack we had in here. Because all we really need is that chip coming off the top. And let's see. Not good. Let's do. Yeah, let's see if we could find this sync point here where we move. Okay, it's about here. Go ahead and drop in your clip. Looks like roughly about 36, let's call it 3618. Grab the clip that says mountain and ice falling. Switch to spot mode. Mountain and ice falling. Drop that into the avalanche 2 clip. So it's 3618. 3618. Hit OK. Now, something significant. Raise your hand if you got it. Got it? Okay. There's something significant that happens in the falling process, and it's where it stalls. So what we need is like a low impact hit, and then a bit of a pause before the rest of the movement. So if you skip on down, I don't know if you already had this written in your spotting notes, but you notice there's a moment of impact right there. You kind of see that what they jar the camera to make it feel kind of real. So it looks like it's at 3816. What we're going to do at 3816 is let's go ahead and put a hole in this clip. So all you have to do to get to 3816 is click into it, right, onto the clip. And we're going to use a move that we did Monday to separate the clip. What was the separate clip command? Separate clip command. Anybody remember from Monday? Command E, right? As long as we're on the clip at 3816, we can just hit Command E. And then what we can do is we're going to bump down until we see it. We're going to essentially nudge until we get to the point where it moves again, where it's like sliding again. There it goes. So there it's kind of settled and somewhere in. I'd say we could probably go at like 3916 and then hit Command E yet again. And all we're going to do is we're going to delete that spot. All right, so 3816 to 3916. And all we need to do is do some sort of sub drop here. I think what we might want to do, let me see. Let's see how this works out. Okay, that'll work. Just needs to be longer. Pull out, looks like. Yeah. All right, so here's what I did. I dropped a hole in there. And in that hole, I went ahead and with my pencil tool, I drew my automation so the avalanche sub was at its highest point for this system. The problem was I tried cutting it down here, and it sounded weird because it didn't carry over into the next clip. Kind of just stops, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it peel over just a bit. So I took it a little longer. Now, what's odd about this, the weird part about this is when the clip, not when the clip cuts out, but when the clip comes back, right? So here's what we're going to do. We could do volume automation. Here's an alternative to volume automation. Okay, so in your notes, I want you to write clip gain adjustments. And what happens here in the clip gain adjustments, we have two options, and it's clip by clip. And this is not, it's interesting, the way they built this is it's not automation, but it does automate it. It's essentially automation. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's automation that's built into the actual clip. It's not built onto the track. So then if you move that clip somewhere else, it still has the automation built into the clip. And the cool part about that is the problem with having automation on the track is that after a clip is done, the automation still carries on, which means if you wrote automation for one section, you have to write it again for the next section, right? Doing it clip by clip kind of alleviates that. So in order to work with clip gain, the first step we have to do is we have to go to, so step one is go to view, clip, and then go to clip gain line. Now there's already a clip gain fader on each clip, and that's where this little fader icon is that says 0 dB. But if we actually want to write in automation to the clip, we can actually do it with clip gain line. Step one is activate clip gain line. Step two is draw in automation on the clip gain line. And that's all there is to it. So what I'm going to do here, in the same way we normally write volume automation, is notice the clip comes back in kind of odd. Right? It should kind of be a little more gradual. Again, with my pencil tool, freehand, I'm just going to go over to my clip, and I'm going to tell it, you know what, I want you to be down here and work your way up back to where the original point was. And this is specific to the clip. So, sorry, I'll let you see it. I mean, and it could really even hang out longer. I feel like we could take longer getting there. I'm actually going to take even longer getting there. I feel like it's just a little too much too soon. And the big thing was what I did with that automated dip there is, watch what I did. I pushed that sub, and then right when it goes to the scene where he's like looking at it, he's kind of thinking about like what's going on exactly, I pull it. And I didn't pull it at the immediate clip switch, like at the scene switch, because it would have been it's a little too drastic to pull it immediately at the scene switch there. So I let it overlap, and I'm giving him a second to kind of figure this out. Sorry, hold on, let me. All of a sudden, right here, he's twitching his ear, and he's going, oh, I wonder what that is. And so I didn't bring that clip back all the way until he kind of starts to go, and I don't know why it's not trailing. And he's like, oh no, right there at that. Oh no, and then again we push up with the sub and we bring that other clip slide avalanche sound back in. You know, and so obviously there's more sound effects to be had here, but we might. I mean, just looking at the time. Let's talk about a couple things. How many of you had, before we got to the avalanche, or before we got to the ice crack, how many of you had already dropped in the majority of your sound effects up to that point? Or a lot of you still working on getting that far? Okay. Because what we want to do today is we kind of want to tidy all that up, kind of drop as much of it in so we can basically do a bounce and export so we can work on new stuff for next week. Because the goal is really to work on some new stuff. Let's say the final project that we're going to do for next week, and then that way we can move on to getting that resolved and then be prepped for the final the week after. So we kind of have two options. We can either really continue. I mean, I'll be honest for you guys. I could go either way. I'm going to give you either another project next week that you can work on, or we can spend the rest of the week working on the rest of this clip. So, which is fine with me because they're both. The other project option is essentially creating some music for a film trailer, but the problem is that we only have about a week left to do it, so we kind of have to jam through that process as well. So it's kind of up to you guys. I don't know what your thoughts are. Thoughts or feedback about that?
Well, let's try something new. I don't know.
Yeah, you've been on this one for a while, right?
Try something new.
Yeah, totally okay with that. Well, why don't we do this? Because we only have about 30 minutes ish. Let's go ahead and talk about getting your overall mix for what you do have set up. Okay, so a couple things we're going to need. One, the majority of your clips, they should be strung together. Like your clips that are separated should be strung together by ambience. Okay, so like if you had built your ambience bed somewhat successfully, then all these times at the beginning, where he's kind of moving around doing his thing, it should have been filled underneath with ambience. Now I'm noticing my ambience is a little shy. I think I want to pull it up. Let me pull it up just a touch. Just a little more. Oh, except hold on one. Okay, do me a favor and do it real quickly now. Go ahead and hit Command-Shift-N and create a stereo master fader. We hadn't done this yet because we didn't necessarily have the need as we were building, but now we do because we're getting into our final mix state. This master fader is the overall master volume for your project. One of the issues with the master fader is once you start adding all these clips in, it tends to clip. So what you're going to oftentimes do is push play, figure out where the majority of your volumes are, and if it's clipping at all and you'll see it in the red, just pull it down a bit and give it some headroom. Especially when you get into this section. Into this section where things kind of got loud. Oops. Yeah, as long as we have some room there, because we don't want to be pegging the meters. Right? Okay. After that, what I want you to do is I want you, for the clips that you do have in place, I want you to go ahead and go through and just set some very basic balances for them. So like on mine, I noticed I needed more ambience at the beginning. There's a couple of sound effects that are too loud. Well, the cool part about this is now that we have the clip gain info on the individual clip, if we needed to, inside of a track, say, oh, we just need these particular things to grow as we go, we can do them clip by clip. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch over. Now that I have my gain line info, and on my bounces, you guys should hopefully have your initial bounces of when Scrat was coming into the scene. I'm going to take my trim tool, and I'm just going to go to my clip line for the first bounce. So notice how this works. I'm going to go, all right, well, he's further away, so what am I going to do? I'm going to make it smaller. And then the next one, I'm going to make it a little larger, and then this is my last one. So essentially it grows as he comes into the scene. So we'll take a look at the beginning. See how that works? Right? So all I did was pull this one down, make this one a little less, and then have this one be the loudest. Follow me so far? So all we're doing is, because we have our clip gain line info up, I'm just going to use my trim tool, and I can do that modifying clip by clip on the trim tool. And then let's see what happens next. Okay, well this particular scream is a little loud. I'm going to pull that out. Now, remember these hops at the end, so then again I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So it's going to go hop, 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 louder, louder, louder. Boom. Okay, so this should be the loudest hop. Same thing with these hops. I'm going to pull this down. Of course, when the clips get a little small, they won't turn like, the trim tool won't turn like it's supposed to. So what you have to do is just zoom in a little more. So I'm going to pull this one down, pull this down with it a little, pull this one down. So then again, my hops are growing. This isn't being too loud. Now, the beautiful part about this is because we also had that avalanche sub, I'm actually going to, I like the effects. I might actually just pull my avalanche sub in for this one little impact. Now, the cool part about this is when you write your automation, if you select it and highlight it, you can actually nudge it the same way you nudge everything else. All right, so you kind of have your task at hand. What you're going to do is you're going to try to blend those. Set up your ambience levels first. Make sure your ambience level's in a nice, comfortable spot. But again, what you can do is you can use this clip line info, and you can adjust clip by clip, just making sure that things that are supposed to grow in the scene are growing. And the emphasis is the emphasis in this scene at the very beginning is really on the minute he realizes he cracks the ice. You kind of have to build it that way. Cool. And if you switch, did you switch over to the clip view gain line, or did you deactivate it in view? Because you have that clip gain. If you go to clip. And then go to game line. Yeah, that's the one we're using.
There.
So you're good. Everybody else is good. Dylan, you're okay, right, bud? Okay, let's go ahead and talk about just a couple things in order to wrap this up. So we have like about 11 minutes left. So let's talk about how we're going to wrap this up kind of quickly. What I want to do is I want us to execute a batch fade, and that's why we've left all of the fades to the end. One of the reasons we didn't use fades as our main in and out points, like for when we were bringing these things up and down, we didn't use standard fades for this, is because if we put it in the game info automation, then we could batch fade everything, and the fades won't affect the overwritten automation points. Whereas we could have wrote this whole thing right here as a fade, but then again, if we wanted to go back and do batch automation, if we do or batch fading, when we do batch fading, it overrides it, and then it puts in the batch fade version instead of the one that we elected to do. So what we're going to do to batch fade is really quite simple. I think at this point in time, I don't think we included any fades at all. Let me just double check. All you have to do to make the batch fade work is you're literally going to triple click with the selector tool, and this is how, or I'm sorry, you really could just do this. You could really just click way back here at like you zoom out way back at the end of the session and highlight everything that exists that you built, not the pre-designed stereo file that came with it, but all of your clips that you built. And like on mine, I'm not using these. Once you have everybody highlighted, you can then just do a simple Command F. Now what the fade's going to do is it's going to make fade ins for anything that was at the beginning of the clip. It's going to do a fade out at the end of the clip. So like there were moments where like we cut off the end of the clip and it had a drastic cut, so it made a snap sound. And then it's going to crossfade anything that we put back to back. So all those reverses that you did when you did the duplicate and reverse for the avalanche stuff, it's going to crossfade all those and hem them together. So all you have to do is hit Command F, and then it's going to show you this is what your fade outs or fade ins will look like, your crossfades will look like, and your fade outs will look like. In the batch fade process, you can actually set the length of each of those. So notice the length of the fade in is a 6 millisecond. The length of the out is a 5. I think I accidentally tapped something, but then the length of the crossfade is a 10. These are all fine. It's just they're all generic fades. You could just go ahead and hit OK, and it's just going to write them all at once. Like what that did. Well, let me back up before that. Let me show you something here. I had a very distinct clicking sound happening right here. And so it was like snapping through that process. And then I noticed there was another one down here. All those tick, tick, ticks on the hops. Hear that little snap? That's all from needing crossfades. So like once those crossfades go in, or all those fade in, fade outs go in, with that batch fade group, go back to that and you'll listen. Of course, there's one just real small one at the very beginning of this one clip. All right, once we've done that, what we're going to do now is you should have an overall balance. Like you should have a balance kind of set up. We're going to do two things. We're just going to throw a very basic limiter on the master just so that we have a little more juice out of the overall clip. And then we're going to go ahead and do the export to QuickTime. Okay? But we're going to need to do a couple things to do it. One is we want to go ahead and highlight the range that we're going to use. So what I want you to do is after processing the batch fade, hopefully you just hit enter or return to hit OK. Did you guys already do the batch fade? Does anybody still need to do the batch fade real quick? No? Okay. Here's what we're going to do then. What I want you to do is I want you to hit return and make sure that your start marker shows 1000000 at on the counter here. What I then want you to do is I want you to, where it says length, I want you to go to the third column and type in 50 and hit return. Now, what this should do is it should use your last listed location, like mine. This is the clip that I was in. and it should have selected 50 seconds for you. That 50 seconds represents about where we ended in the clip. We're going to leave that there, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to the master fader, and on the master fader, all right, so you have that master, I'm going to insert a plugin, and I'm just going to use one simple one in Dynamics. I'm just going to use Maxim. Maxim doesn't sound the greatest overall, but it's a nice, easy limiter. So if you open up Maxim, it's again, apply it to your master fader. It's under Dynamics. It's called Maxim. Once you open this, there's only a couple parameters that you need to really use for this. All we're going to do, this is a basic limiter, and it's a real simplified one. All we have to do in the limiter is bring the threshold down to provide more juice, and then drop the ceiling so it doesn't clip. So watch how this works. We're going to push play. So go ahead and activate this real quick on your master fader so you have it. And then we're going to go ahead and push play. And in the areas where the sound, the audio gets pretty strong, when we know that these are our stronger points. I'm going to go ahead and lay into the threshold here. So right when this starts happening, by bringing it down. And notice it starts clipping almost immediately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the ceiling down. See how far I can get away with it. I think I can probably get to -6. Let's see for the whole. Yeah, it looks like it's holding. And this is going to be different for all of you because you guys all put in different levels overall. So it's going to change, but what for each of you. But what I did is I just put in this threshold, and this little meter over here, this thing right here shows where the majority of your volumes fall. So all I'm doing is I'm watching my master fader meters on the master fader. And I'm just bringing this down a little bit, this peak limiter down a little bit so I get a little more juice out of it. And when it goes to clipping, all I did was take the ceiling down -6. So what the ceiling does is that it basically, if you remember, brick wall limiting essentially says that like when you hit a certain level, it just cuts it off. Well, what we did with this is we applied a threshold where the limiter starts to activate. And then the brick wall limiter essentially is where that ceiling mark is. It just says that nothing's going to go beyond whatever the ceiling is. And if it's at 0, it just barely gets beyond it enough to clip. So what we did is we just backed down that ceiling with a little bit of a safe margin so that it won't pass that ceiling and clip on the master output. So that it's nice. It's a little bit louder, but it doesn't clip. So like if you listen to the level here without it, I'll let it wind up for a sec. All right, so let me bypass it real quick. So we're probably getting about maybe 3 dB of extra juice out of it. Plus it's safeguarding our clipping margins. So I want you to set up those two parameters real quick. I want you to select the length and go ahead and set up on your master fader. I want you to open up the Maxim and set up the threshold and the ceiling by pushing play and looping through there, making sure that you're not clipping at all. Once you've done that, we're ready to go to our Quicktime Export. I'll leave mine on screen so you can see it. Okay, with that parameter set up, this is our final step for this project. All you're going to have to do is go to File, Export, Bounce to, and QuickTime. So File, Bounce to, QuickTime. When you get into the QuickTime bounce option, it's going to ask you what's the output source. It should automatically be the line out 1, 2. And then it'll say, these are the parameters. Well, right now we did it as a 24-bit interleaved with at 48K, which is awesome. And then it says, import after bounce. We don't want that. Add to iTunes. We don't want that. But it says include video, same as the source location. Replace timecode track. That's all fine. File name, Ice Age project. And you might want to. It's going to come out as an MOV, so you may or may not want or elect to make another name for this. The other thing is notice that there's an offline option at the bottom. I want you to uncheck that. You don't have to retitle it necessarily. I'm probably just going to keep this the way that it is and just hit bounce. And then it's going to do it in real time. You'll hear it come through. When it's done, it's going to be exported to the bounce folder of your session. Okay, when that's done and over, you can close your session or quit Pro Tools. And then if you go and follow your folder where you're saving stuff for your folder, what you'll notice is it will exist in your session folder under the bounced files. Okay, so in the actual session folder under the bounce files. If you click on it and hit the space bar, you can actually preview the final output. And there that is. What I'm going to want you to do is, we'll do this Monday, but I'm going to want you to load this back to the MTL server, but I only want your final video. And so we'll do it on Monday, but I want you to add your name to it. But that's it in a nutshell. Any questions about that for today? No? Awesome. Good job today, guys. You guys are dismissed. I will see you Monday. Have a great weekend. We'll be back at it again soon.